How's it going, everybody? We're live on Facebook. We're going to do a little intro. Beautiful song, spontaneous creation that Yvania made. It's full of code activation, channeling, downloads. Let me just pull it up, and we'll sit through, listen to this, and give us time for people to come in and also to share. If these shows resonate with you, please share. As we're getting suppressed big time by social media, we would appreciate it to share it to your page or to a group, one group. That'd be cool. All right, here's Yvania with her incredible creation on her guitar.
Came from the golden sun, born into creation, with love as my witness. I am human. Kora oro kora tira kara sara koro sina kara oro koro toro sine tira. Holy Father, Sacred Mother, I'm a child of the sun. And all the unraveling and all the unfurling through the shadows of self has led me back home. Yeah, I rode the dragons and I tamed the lions and looked in the mirror till it shattered and fell. Yeah, I am the hero that took the fool's journey out on the front lines with nothing but love in my gun. Came to carry the threefold flame, be a pillar upon this plane, rebirth divine, human template. And all the unraveling and all the unfurling through the shadows of self just led me back home. Yeah, I rode the dragons and I tamed the lions, looked in the mirror till they shattered and fell. Yeah, I am the hero that took the fool's journey out on the front lines. Nothing but love in my gun. Yeah, I was a fallen and now I am risen, and my cup runneth over. I drink from the Holy Grail. Da 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 da. I came from the golden sun, born into creation, with love as my witness. I am human. Kora oro kora tira kara soro oro kora tina oro kora shtikara stakara. Holy Father, Sacred Mother, I'm a child of the sun. Here to co-create a new world, co-create a new world, co-create a new universe, co-create a new world, co-create a new world. New world.
Wasn't that incredible? Wasn't that incredible? Let's see. Jed Riverstone says he made it. Feeling a bit rough around the edges today. A lot of integration going on. How about you guys? Well, we're going to talk to Yvania about that. That was an incredible. Every time I listen to that, I just want to like, oh my God, the whole world should hear that song. Anyway, let's bring Yvania up, see what's happening down in Tasmania on the front line of the apocalypse. Yeah, her voice is divine, isn't it? ¿Qué pasa, señorita? Mi hermana hermosita.
Muy bien.
Janie Hodges, you speak Spanish.
No,
Hablas español. Uh, Janie Hodges says you just can't get better lyrics and such a lovely presence. Just gorgeous. Yeah, Yvania, what's happening? How you doing? What's going on? It's good to see you. I always love doing work with you.
yeah, you too.
What's happening? You look good.
Thank
You look
you.
good. Have you been in hibernation or semi-hibernation like a lot of people last 2 or 3 weeks?
I've been in somewhat of a hibernation for, I think a bit more than a few weeks.
Yeah, mine's been a few years.
But
uh,
yeah,
I actually read a couple and shared a couple of your posts. I don't know the order, but I think they both came within the last 3 days. At least that's when I saw them. And one of them was I can't remember exactly. I'm going to pull it up unless you can jump into my head and figure out what I'm talking about. But there was one that was regarding some real time intel that was like so right on the money, and I think it was just a couple of days ago. Do you know what I'm talking about? Let me see if I can find it. Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh yeah, you can. You're waiting on me. Hang on. God, these 3D things, doing these 3D things is so difficult. I don't know about you, but for me. Okay, I think this is one of them. There was one without a picture. Yeah, this is it. It's not too long. I would encourage anyone to see this. I put this up, but she's talking about the notes of you exist within every dimension outside of dimension. Your note, parentheses, is within your DNA. Your unique soul story of you through multiple dimensional experiences and your creator code. All the yous that you are dancing with, all the yous that you are dancing with, entwined with, and dreaming with. It's a collective soul symphony, is everywhere. It's being broadcast throughout every dimension and throughout all that is. Yeah. And it really hit home with me because I really, in my own experience, have understood, and it only means it's just the truth as I receive it. I'm not trying to put it on anyone else, but that everything we're doing here is being felt in all dimensions, all timelines, all around all around in the infinite. And to me, what I find so fascinating about it is that the more the human is involved, the more miraculous it gets, which makes it kind of interesting because we're getting rid of an old human. A lot of people talking about dying and death lately, talking about having to let go of these identities and personalities. There's no like, oh, I can keep a little bit of it. So on one hand, we're like losing and de-emphasizing this human experience, but on the other hand, you can't you can't increase the level of alignment or awareness or elevation or expansion and or it's in direct proportion to how much the human is involved. Does that make sense? That's why that struck a chord with me. Yeah.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And the death and dying cycle is relevant on every level of dimension. That's what I've come to discover. So it's hard to put all words into a little writing, but I put the energy in here and there just as snippets, because I don't want to write a book, and I know people don't like to read such long things, but what happened for me was I had a merging with all my future selves, which felt separate from the higher aspect kind of merging that I'd experienced before. And what it was, as going through all these different dimensions and experiencing that was experiencing that and speaking with me and through me, for all this time. And when I got all of me, it felt like, now I know that I'm a projection here. I'm still me, but I am more so observing me through my eyes, if that makes sense. I'm outside of me, looking through me as all of me. And that came about because when, like most of us through these next few months, entering what we've been calling Christed consciousness, the story of that, I thought, well, I didn't think, I felt, can I let go of this Christed consciousness story that exists from this dimension to the 12th dimension in my own experience? Can I now let go of this story and completely die unto myself, the whole of me? Because in a previous time we'd spoken, I'd said to you, after that Taurus field, we don't want a game over. That's not the point. Well, what I discovered was it is a game over. So for me to integrate that and to go, right, if I let go of this, then it could be a game over for me. I don't know whether I'm going to be here when I let go. I don't know whether I'm going to remember Yvania when I let go. I don't know what's going to happen. Can I let go? And as I was feeling it and I guess thinking about it, I entered the great void. There's always voids in each dimension and each letting go. And in the great void, I just came apart and just observed. And I went through a death. And it was quite a few weeks of just complete stillness and nothingness. Still functioning, barely. No emotions. So when I came back out the other side, of course, the good news is you're still here, right? I'm still here. Right. I don't know for how long, because we don't know. We just don't know. We are all that is. We're the observer, we're the experiencer, we're everything. And to try and convey that through understanding with the mind is impossible. We're so used to that information, overload, going to school and learning these complex mathematical equations and learning history just to embed the story of the mind even more. Everything is a story, and in that post I was saying how we're time travelers, and we came to collapse stories, because that's why time exists, because we're holding on to a story. So I'm holding this story just being here. Yeah, and just talking to you about this story. This is why time is still here. And my time might be a little bit different to others' time, but it's still time, right? Where my story is. So for me to function and be here, it was like out of the void came, okay, what would you like to do next? Do you want to go and return to that timeline in that story, for the purpose of what would you like to do? So yes, I'm here. That's what I chose to do in this story. So the mind gets all these stories, and they get sort of projected upon us as complicated, and everything has to be complicated. And when you step out of the mind and you lose it, and you just feel and you assimilate through your field, through your heart, the knowing is so simple. It's tiny little loops that happen on every level that are so simple. The death and the rebirth, the letting go, the merging, it's the same at every, and it's simple. We've done most of this already, right? It's no different. It's just that the mind thinks it's really complicated. It has to be difficult. Surely it's not this easy.
I think it's almost like a diversion to keep the egoic part alive. But yeah, I love what you said about the. So we all have these different experiences, multiple types of experiences. Multi-dimensional aspect. I love what you talk about with going in and aligning with your future selves. I know Morgan's on several occasions in the last few weeks, two that stand out the most, where she aligned with her future self, or basically her inner child, and her present self, and they all went to 0 point. But I love what you said, that when these things happen, then you come out on the other side, and obviously there's an elevation and there's an expansion, there's a greater awareness, but you're back in the same place. You're back. You're back in this consciousness that has been has been present the entire time. Whether the chatter's there or the chatter's not there, the consciousness is there. And I mostly go back to it for myself to find that space very easily. Like when I'm a little kid playing in the yard by myself, I can see all the pixels, I can see everything, because there's no interruption. But yeah, I think that's interesting too, what you said too, because we are, people have talked about the dying, the letting go, the death of these identities, and they're getting down to like the nitty gritty of being a mother or being a father. That's a big one.
Yeah,
Having
that was
children's
big.
a big one.
Yeah,
But
it is.
right. But I mean, that's like no different. They are no different than anyone else. I'm sorry, but I'm not. They just happen to be your child or your loved one or your mother, your father, brother, or sister, whatever, in this incarnation, which is very important
Mm.
because energetically they represent something huge. But the gold in that hugeness is not in, oh, I've got to do this because I'm their father. I got to do this because I'm her husband. It has to do with what they're showing you. And for me anyway, in blunt terms, what is it about this relationship and this connection? What is it that makes me uncomfortable, that I haven't faced or dealt with or aligned with or integrated or whatever? That's where it seems to really be huge. And I think that's what I really liked about your statement, is that you come back and you either let go of the story or you're still in the story. And it is a choice. Do I want to be in this energy? Do I want to engage? Because we can engage these stories which would be, in the experience, it would be, okay, my relationship with my child. I don't even have to talk to them, in the physical world to be in the story. My head can be in the story. Oh my God, what are they thinking? Oh my God, what's happening to them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what jumps out at me with what you said is, yeah, we come back to this place, but do we come back fresh? Uh, do we come back? It seems like some of these stories we just don't want to let go of.
Mm. The ability,
To be
each
blunt
time we
about
come
it.
back, the ability to know that you are not the story, but the observer of the story while in the story. Knowing the multi-dimensionality of being and being able to operate from all those different angles makes it so much easier to remain detached from the story. You can still interact within the story, knowing that you're observing the story and you are not part of that story. You're interacting within the story. And when you come from that aspect, as though you're looking in, you're not attached. You're simply participating and experiencing, aware that you can, at any stage, disconnect when needed, if needed. There's a phase there where, for me, when I was little, I'll just jump around a little bit. I used to go to sleep, and I thought everyone could do this. I used to think about what I would like to dream about, and I would dream. And then I had awareness that I was 7 levels of dreamer, observing each level of dreaming. And I could change and jump, and the highest level of dreamer could pass the message down to me, and I could pass messages back and forth, and we'd just shape this dream reality. So when I came out of the last death, I thought, this is exactly like what I've always been doing in my dreams, which the dream reality to me is more real than anything else now. You come out and you see that this is a dream and you are the dreamer, and the dreamer, and that just like that explanation of my dreaming. And you sort of come out so detached because you're like, well, everyone else is just dreaming. And when they tell you their dream, their story within that dream, you're kind of like, well, that's your dream. If you want to dream that, you dream that, right? And you kind of, you can be almost cold, emotionless, because you are aware, so aware that everybody is dreaming their story and immersed in it. And you think, well, why would you want to dream that? That's, for me, I don't want to dream that. And that doesn't feel good. And I just don't want to do that. And then that makes it hard to interact with people, relate to people, because the stories have gone. That was I think that's why I pulled away from a lot. It was hard to interact with that emotionless state of just being. And then I came around again, and that beautiful, pure
I
love.
like that.
Yeah.
I love talking to you. I love talking to you. I learn. I pick up stuff from everybody I talk to, but I've always picked up stuff from you. I love that because, God, and if I say anything that seems derogatory towards anything, it's actually not derogatory, and it's actually because I'm guilty of it, or I've experienced it, or I've been that, or however you want to call it. But gosh, so much time in these last 8 years I've been involved with these circles has been like these cliches, like, be present in the present, and oneness, and unconditional love, and woo woo, love and fluffy, love and light bullshit. Okay. uh I especially, my radar goes up when I feel an energy of, I got it all figured out, you just need to do this and you just need to do that, and take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. I'm like, F you. I don't know what trip you're on, but I'm not on that trip. And, and not to take anything away from them, it's just I don't relate to it. But what I do relate to is this whole thing about uh, going out, sending our energy out, however you want to describe that. You could say, aligning with your future selves, multidimensional aspects, different galactic, angelic, whatever, memories. And then you come back and you're back in your same space. And I would think that every time any of us do that, we do come back expanded and elevated, right? And but it doesn't always feel like peaches and cream. It doesn't feel like smooth as butter. It feels weird.
Yeah.
You come back and you're like, why don't I have any emotions? And I'll just give you an example real quick and go back to you. But so I've helped raise 6 kids, you know, and they're older now. The youngest is, I think, 18 now. I think are going to be anyway. So obviously kids, they get into whatever they get into. I got into a lot of trouble and stuff when I was a kid, and but one of them, as an example, got into some trouble, or let's just say into an uncomfortable situation, less than good, and they went on for a while. Went on for probably 3, 4, 5 months, and so when I got word of it, I wasn't in a position to really help other than energetically. And so I basically, like with anything else, I just kind of went into that state and pulled her up and pulled the situation up, pulled in, by my own terms, guides, angels, whatever, my team. And then we did our thing. Boom, we're done. We move on. Life goes on. Not in a bad way, but that's what I can do. All my energy in that eternal moment was sent in love and light, love and light, love and light. Boom, it's done. But what I struggled with was when we reconnected. And believe me, she came at me with nothing but pure love, nothing but pure responsibility, not looking for daddy to save the day, not asking for anything, just saying, how are you? I love you. And I'm okay. And I'm getting off the phone like, and then she, short conversation. And she's like, here's my number, stay in touch. And I'm like going off the phone. I'm like, oh my God, this indigo, man. I mean, like, wow, what kind of energy is that? I can't even imagine in my early 20s going through something like that, which I did, and not coming out all, discombobulated. But my point is that I struggled with, why am I not feeling like sadness or angst or nervousness or worrisome, or why am I not like just and I realize it's just not a part of me anymore. But at the same time, it doesn't, I'm not gonna say it doesn't feel right, but it feels weird. It feels weird to feel, and I think you used the word like kind of emotionless. It feels kind of strange, but I know it's okay.
Mm.
And I don't see enough people talking about that. I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that up.
It's funny because each time I've experienced it, you feel more disconnected than ever. You feel more separated than ever. And yet you're more connected with you. You feel separated from everyone else, more connected with you. And as you connect with you and see through your eyes and connect with your energy, it's so much easier after, I call it birthing through the sun again, our own inner sun, when we come back out, to see where everybody is perfectly placed. So to join in the story into their dream where they are, doesn't serve at all. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve that person. And the most pure thing you can do is to just hold that energetic space and just be and not interact within it. Yeah. You're just complete
I
light.
agree, because
I'm just looking at you and you're just light.
What?
You're just light.
What do you mean? Oh, from the
I've been
sun?
looking at you for a while. Yeah. You're just
You
you're
can't
you're
make this
just
shift up.
rainbow and white and blue and purple. So, yeah.
So, but it's okay. So like, the other thing I noticed too is what am I trying to say? The substance, the real, the real shit, like the real stuff. Like if I look at my kids, I was for 23 years, I had kids in my house, right? And that was whenever I woke up 8 years ago, I woke up and that was one of the things that changed. There was nobody in my house. I didn't have a house, but I always was a very much connected. Like that was kind of like my lifeline, not out of codependency or attachment, just because that's where I was in my life. I always tried to stay heart to heart with my kids, no matter how often, because they didn't always live with me all the time, and so there was a frequency. There was a frequency to the communication, whether it be daily if they're in my house or weekly if they weren't, or whatever the case was. But what I realize now over the last, and I think I have an advantage because when I woke up 8 years ago, I I detached from a lot of the things, a lot of these uh closest circles to you, like your children, parents, and all that. And because of what I was going through, so I kind of at an advantage. I feel, not that it means anything. I just see people going through it. And I'm like, thank God I've gone through that. But what I'm saying is that what I've noticed over the last 2 3 years is like if I just look at the average of the 6 kids, I probably talked to them 3 times in the last 12 months. And that sounds like, doesn't sound right, but the quality and the substance and the frequency that continues from the physical and non-physical communion that I've had with them on a phone call or on Skype or whatever, it's like, to me it's like the same thing, kind of like as an analogy, like sacred sexual intimacy. It's like it's not like every day or every week or whatever, but it's a happening that occurs that has repercussions that just go on and on and on and on. So there is no worry, there is none of that old looping of I got to do this and I got to do that. You just know, you
Yeah.
just know. And not only do you know, but the other one knows too, because
Yeah.
there's some
I
type
do.
of
Because we're known
merging
by
that
our
occurs at the
frequencies.
deepest level of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Hmm?
We're known by our frequencies here. Um, it's not the doing anymore, it's the being. And
Yeah.
more of us that are being, that field grows. It's huge, and that's what we're feeling now, is that
Yeah.
expansion of that field where we're known by our frequency. Yeah, by our works will be known. And what can you say other than anything of the old? Anything is not
Yeah.
is not
I
here.
know you can't. Nothing. There's nothing,
Nothing.
absolutely nothing
Nothing.
that we can take with us. And we're talking about the stuff we've already kind of figured out, which is like we can't have these codependent frequency types of relationships or money in the
No.
sense of it is in the 3D or whatever, even thought patterns, even like you said earlier, like you might get wind of something, especially family, like you get wind of the families can't keep secrets, so you get like the wind of a rumor, or somebody throws some energy at you, the old family way is like, I'm going to tell so and so who I know is going to tell you, and then and I'm going to stick it to you so I can get a reaction. It's a codependent toxic type of thing, but anyway, so you, even if you try to engage it, uh obviously with free will we can, and you don't need the other person to do it. Okay, all they got to do is get that energy to you somehow. But if we engage it, it is showing up. To me it is anyway, as I observe everything, even in myself, primarily my body. I notice different parts of my body, and I've had something flare up like say 2 or 3 times, and I go, okay, what happened the first time, what happened the second time, what happened the third time. And I found, oh my God, it was this connection between me and so that brought up such and such. And it's the same thing each time. And it showed up on my the right side of my back molar in pain, so we're starting to get that, if we even stay in there, because what's happening, I see happening, is people are making new choices and just saying, nope, I'm not judging it. That's just not, I don't want to participate in that. That's not part of my world.
Yeah. The stories all dissolve, all of the old stories that from the start of our history, how the earth was created to the end of, let's say, the end of ascension, that story, it's all stories that are collapsed, because we don't take any of those old stories. Everything is new. Purity is holding nothing, so you can hold all things. And that's what purity is, and that's what is the energy that we take with us, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about. I never think about what I'm going to talk about to people, but with you, I do. So there's a couple of things. One I'll remember in a minute, but the other one is the body, right? So this thing with the body is really weird, because the body's speaking. So it's like, okay, we have a galactic, say, I'm just gonna make stuff up. It's a Syrian aspect. I have an Alpha Centaurian aspect I'm aware of, and I have a dragon aspect, and I have this and that, and future Todd and past Todd and parallel Todd. And so they all have a say. And you were talking about this at the top of the show, where you have it all to pull from, as then, and then go out and be. And then you have the body. Now the body starts talking, not only like the way I was talking about a minute ago, but what I'm also noticing is, like, and I'm not going to get into particulars, but let's just say, I noticed over, 3 or 4 or 5 months, that anytime I ingested something into my body, typically I felt it be processed through my body. I felt it be dispensed from my body. I felt certain things, and I knew inherently somehow that it was related to what I was doing. But I said, I like doing that. So F it, I'm doing it anyway. It's my life, but there's something in my body saying, you can do that, and we can make this easy, or we can make it hard. And so this particular thing, I just stopped doing, right? And lo and behold, it all went away. So I don't know what that is, but my body isn't like speaking like necessarily a human language to me, but it's speaking to me, and I understand it. And it's been kind of new for me. I don't know how other people feel, but it's taken a few months. It's probably taken most of this year to start saying, okay, you know what, you're in the game now too, which makes sense, because how more human can you get but then the body?
Yeah. And what a wow subject the body is. I also experienced something very similar to that, where my body said to me, why do you abuse me by making me work out when I don't want to work out? And I was like, whoa, where did that come from? And isn't it good to work out? Because, carrying some extra weight. And my body was like, why do you think I'm carrying the extra weight? Did you ask why? And no, I don't want to do that exercise. I don't enjoy that exercise, right? So this whole relationship with my body started coming in. Same thing with you. You ingest a certain thing and it's like, I hate that, but you like it, right? A glass of wine or scotch, whatever, right? I'm doing it anyway because that's what I do. It's like, no, I don't like this stuff, right? It doesn't do me any good. It's the body is such everything is experienced from within us, right? And when we understand that, because we're used to looking outside or looking to space or whatever, but inside is all of creation, all of the coding, all of your even the chakras, right? The energy centers within our body. And our body, of course, not just being our physical body, but our expanded body, is all communicating with each other as we're traversing through it. So it's not outside, it's inside. So the soul highway through the chakras, if you like, to me now they're just octaves, notes on different octaves, and I've seen them light up on soul pathways where when I've merged with future selves, I see the chakras laying flat and I'm walking along the chakras of me, my energy center within myself, but experiencing in my mind is outside, but everything is inside, and our bodies are amazing temples. They're the universe, right? And the void, the creation, and the creator all within us, experiencing this creation, all part of us.
Yeah, that's very
So,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and like one of the things I noticed, well, two things that I would add to that. One is that one of the things I understand from my evolution of communication with my body or understanding is that there are things that were okay 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, obviously, 6 years ago, and this is not what I'm where I'm coming from anyway. It's not about am I vegan or do I eat meat or do I do this or do that or whatever. It's not about that, because I totally agree with your body when it said, hey, this workout does not feel good. I don't believe in that no pain no gain thing. That's old 3D paradigm. But one of the things that I'm getting is that the body's changing.
Mm.
I'm really, really getting that. I'm getting like, my body's saying, hey, you know what? We're leveling up, and that means every part of you, all multiple dimensional aspects, to include the human, to include the organic Merkaba, the body. Like, you're eternal, you're divine, you're part of a transformational era experience, whatever you want to call it. We call it ascension, whatever you want to call it. And it includes all aspects of you. So if you can believe that you're eternal and you're divine, and I'm like, hell yeah, I serve two bags full, no problem. Then you can also believe that your body's changing. And I know there's some specific things that have happened to my body that my body's communicated to me that says, okay, this was okay, but it's not okay anymore. And the reason it's not okay is because your body is actually transforming and becoming, light body, lighter, whatever. And I'm going, okay. In fact, I had an experience today, an ongoing conversation with my body in regard to, what I like and, and all that stuff. And I specifically heard the words, you like this, and that's great. But if you can detach from this, or not even if you, it's like as you or when you detach from this, you have no idea what's on the other side of it. It will blow your mind. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. So so it's interesting how that's going. The other thing I wanted to ask you too, which I know you've experienced, because there's been some parallel stuff happen, like with Morgan and I, and then happens with you, and we're just connected. I know we've been connected ever since that first time I talked to you 2 summers ago. Um, so it's like the heliosgamos, the merging, the conscious merging that used to be like unique to people like Morgan and sisters that carried the sacred wisdom, and that was part of anchoring it into the earth. But actually, we're merging all the time. We're becoming more conscious of it. We're coming into it with the proper intentions and so on. But on that note, I'm starting to pick up like, okay, this is really a viable vehicle for the Merkaba, for the human hybrid, for the light body. And that is like the door to true bilocation, true remote viewing, true teleportation. This is actually a huge doorway and much bigger part of our conscious existence than what we've experienced before, or the things we've experienced before. I don't know if
Yeah.
you have any comments on that.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that we can talk about this, experiencing such similar things, and yet you and Morgan experience it together, and I experience it on my own, by myself. And most of my experiences with that merging and sharing have been with Gaia, merging with, and beyond that with energy, because the expansion, when you merge it, the expansion of your energy field into everything, you are able to get that perspective I was talking about before, where you just see you can sort of look back in on yourself as the universe observing itself, as everything, as one with that person, that energy, that stuff that makes up all that is. Yeah. And for me, I consciously practice merging with my surroundings, so I start from the heart, and I will just connect, and I will reach out with my heart to everything that I can feel within my first field. And I just keep going out until I am the leaves, I am the branches, I am the trees, going beyond, beyond, beyond. And as I do this, I'm aware that I'm outside of myself while still in myself, as everything looking at me, and I'm just one with all things. And when you are one with all things, if you want to hold a focal point, you can be that point. If you want to be that leaf, I did it with the sun the other day, and I was the sun looking at myself. So you can, it's the ultimate merging, and ultimate, the mind will want to see it in a different way. And I know that we will physically see these things when we are used to seeing them here, because we're doing this now. You guys are doing it. A lot of people are doing it. We're experiencing this merging as one. And we are going places, yeah. And we will see, I know, because myself have been there, and I know that the physical manifestation of this is coming. It's here, it's been done. But it doesn't come into our field until we are that field. You've got to be that field. You've got to know how it works, how it is, how you are. It's all you. Everything is you. You pull all of you in. We're not breathing oxygen. We talked about this last time. We're breathing ourselves, our particles, all that is. We're constantly drawing from. And then as you draw all that you are out into the field, you come back, you're constantly birthing through the void of you that which is you, your highest you.
Yeah.
You can be anywhere.
Yeah,
it's that, it's a knowing. It's not an understanding with the mind. It's a knowing that you are all things.
Yeah, very true. And it's almost I don't know. Of course, I'm in a situation where I'm, with someone. We talk this every day and night, but it's even like since we've been here in this cabin for like 2 weeks, we've had a lot of alone time. We got no problems or anything. It's just the way it is, and it's like I've kind of, like before we got here, but it was building up, and I was getting to the point where I'm like, okay, what Morgan's saying is, if you know it, well, you got to say it. I just learned to apply it everywhere now. So like these things come in, I used to run in and say, Morgan, guess what I just downloaded? Now I don't even say anything. I just go, okay, I know it. Or if I see this or I see that or whatever the case, I'm just like, I know it. But what I was getting at is there's it's almost like if I try to start, even if it's with her, but if I try to start to explain something, it immediately loses its energetic presence. I mean, it gets diminished. And if it gets diminished in my mind, then it's diminished energetically. So I'm respecting the energy, saying, okay, I got this. I know it. And I don't need to tell anybody. I just, because like, if you start talking about it, it like takes it away because you can't put it into words. You can't, like you said, you just can't do it. I wanted to ask you something else too, because I know you two are like sisters, you're part of that sisterhood, and I remember through the years, like she would say, we might be doing a meditation or whatever. She's like, she shoots up like at higher self level, looks down at the earth and could see a grid. And I can remember different phases of this. I can remember when she said, I see a bunch of divine feminine and they're standing on a grid. I don't see any men, and now I see a man and a woman over here and they're mostly just women waiting, whatever. Again, it's all energetic. But then it started to be like, I'd say a few months ago, she'd go up and she'd see like this grid, this golden grid that's starting to light up, right? Well, the other day, like I want to say like 3-4 days ago, she walked out here onto the front porch and she said, you never guess what happened. I said, what? She said, when I shoot up and I look down and see the grid, I actually saw it in my plane of vision. Like I was on the grid standing on the porch. I'm like, oh, holy shit. Well, what did that look like? She said, it looks the same, except for it's not down there, or I don't have to be up there to look at it. I'm actually seeing it in my plane of vision. Can you relate to that?
Totally. Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah.
I figured
It's all
you
here.
two were like,
It's
yeah.
all here now. All of it. It's only the stories that remain. If we hold the stories, that old is still here. It is, there'll come a time where that totally just disconnects and plays out its own simulation within another realm and goes back through the void. Right now it's all here, and as we are that grid, and we're all holding that grid. It's like we're watching a movie screen, the other world. We're just observing it, and holding the earth, holding that. We are the grid, all of us.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's the only one that, I've always felt that. I've always felt like that's the grid. That's the grid I'm concerned with, not the Christ consciousness grid. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not being sacrilegious. I'm just saying the one that matters to me is we're the boots on the ground, period. We're not, the archangels aren't doing it. The angels aren't doing it. The galactics aren't doing it.
This is
We're
a new
doing
story. Yeah,
And-
we're
and-
doing it. And there gets a point where, with my future selves, that's as far as it goes. It goes from the observation of the old leaving and holding that new place. This is a new story. It's a new story.
Yeah, I picked up a book. My friend here, our beloved sister, who gifted us this space for a while. She has a nice collection of books and some indigenous and some galactic stuff. But I picked up this book, and I don't even read it anymore. But sometimes I pick up this book, and I picked it up, and I thought it was an indigenous book, but it wasn't. It was about a primitive culture. And I didn't read enough to know where it's at or anything, but it was a primitive culture with a very unique name. And I opened, how you open up a book and say, okay, it's got a message for me. And it said, the chapter said something about they came from Mars. I thought, oh, wow, this must be galactic, and whatever. But I started to read it. And what it was this primitive culture that had been untouched by civilization, so to speak. and it was about, that chapter was about people coming into their village with cameras and video cameras and, you know, all of this civilized, really uncivilized technological equipment, disrupting their environment. And it was just talking about, and it was spoken or written from the mouths of a couple of two or three of the villagers. And it was just talking about the huge impact that that had on their energy. So I flipped it and I thought, well, wait a minute. What if you flip that and you take all that static out? And this is that's kind of how I saw it. That's what I got out of that book. You know, I just kind of got that. But another thing I noticed too, and that was the third thing I was going to ask you about, was like, so, you know, for so many of us, if not every one of us, conspiracy theories, disclosure was a big part of our wake up. Like
Yeah.
many people had the same story in SOULSPEAKS 5D. They said, I was born with it. I got married. I went into the matrix and I went to sleep and I came back and I had a few traumas and then it woke me up. But one of the big things I think for people was being able to go on the internet and research, right? And you find out 9/11 wasn't what it, you know, and then it opens up all these other can of worms. And what I'm seeing is it's like the story of the Yvanias and the, you know, the Richie Sauters and the Tom White Bears and so on. These stories and this community energy is actually surpassing the energy level of conspiracy. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that the value of it is perpetuating and more sustaining. These other things have become finite consciousnesses that are dying out and they're no longer serving us, and almost like they're falling on deaf ears.
Yeah,
You know,
the stories of energy, totally. And the galactic wars and that we collapsed. I collapsed those stories too. I went through those stories and the manipulation stories, all of those stories. And how can you not expand? And, you know, this community all dropping stories and expanding together and just being and sharing from that space of being is huge, right? Because we don't hold on to the story and we're expanding together.
It's like the stories can be all different kinds of things. The stories can be, you know, Jesus came to me 8 years ago and showed me a bunch of stuff, you know.
And we all see that story. The Jesus story, the Mary Magdalene story, whatever stories, and we all see the same stories. We all get the same essence of the story. And then we collapse and go beyond the story, beyond the Jesus story, beyond the Christed consciousness story, beyond that is a new story.
It's like take it in. It's no different than you and I talking, or we meet somewhere, we run into each other. That experience has all this information. You take it in, it washes over you, it permeates through you, and then you go on. And it doesn't matter if it's an old trauma where you were molested and you shut it out of your psyche, or it was a divine communion that you had, that part of your wake up. It's just like you said at the top of the show, you were kind of talking about something else, but energetically it's the same pattern. It's the same cycle. It's like you go in and you have all this go on and you're showing all this stuff, and then you're right back where you were, not in a bad way, but with more knowledge, more wisdom, and more awareness. And then you're like, which is where we're at now, which is kind of like, okay, now what do I do? You know, how do I create and what do I want? You know, and then there's that dance between, well, I got free will. I'm Todd Medina. I'm going to be Todd Medina one time. I want to do this. But there's another part up here that's like, hey, I know what's better for you. I created you. This is the whole wrench in the machine, was that creation thought it was God, which it is, but it didn't know itself. It doesn't know enough of itself to realize that it's like somebody said today, you know, get out of the way. Get out of your own way, right? So are you and your mom getting your international passports together? You guys going to be coming to the U.S. anytime soon?
I am getting my passport together,
Are you?
actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you really? Yeah. You
Yeah.
must have told me that in council last night. I know we're all coming together, and I know that sounds far out, but I've had so many people tell me over the last 8 years, in in a metaphoric sense, in a dream or in a vision, that we're all come to this kind of gala, kind of party, coronation type thing,
Yeah. We do.
and I believe
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
we're yeah.
That's what
So
my
I'll
that's
look
what
forward to.
myself tells myself.
Mm,
That's we do come together. Yeah. And it's not just an
yeah,
energetic yeah. So
right on. Yeah.
it's going to be great just sharing our frequencies.
Mm. Well, that's what we're doing now, but in the
We've
physical,
got
it,
some
it
words in
it's
there.
takes
Yeah. We've got words,
it
but
takes on.
yeah.
Yeah, I've watched it. I've watched it again happen since we came over here on August the 8th to the U.S. mainland. And I saw Morgan. I saw her meet at least two, but two women that stand out right now that she didn't know them. They just walked into the same room, so to speak, and looked at each other, and 15, 20 minutes of hugging and crying, and you can't make that up. It was a soul recognition at a deep sister level that was just like, wow. I mean, whoa. I mean, this is talk about forerunners. Some of the divine feminines like yourself. I mean, they have that experience of what I'm describing. They bring that energy, and yeah, it's pretty powerful, really powerful. A lot
Give us
better
up.
than, to me, than going, not nothing against conferences or events or expos, but to me it's those moments that you know that
Yeah.
are
You
carry
are
all
love
the real impact.
being with no
Uh,
agenda, just being love,
yeah,
recognizing that.
yeah. So, have you made up any new songs yet?
I've written a few. I haven't put them out
Have
because
you?
it's like as soon as I write them, it's the story that goes right. The
It's
story goes,
what?
and then I'm like, oh, that was a good story. I've released that story now. I don't know whether I want to put that
Oh,
story out
oh,
there like my other story.
oh.
You know what I mean?
No, I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying. Who was it that was just on? Susan Amara was just on, and I don't know a lot of her history, but she was saying how she was talking about light and dark. She's saying, I really appreciate the dark. It's a bigger part of me. Which makes sense to me for all of us, really. And she was saying how that it a lot of her creativity or creative expressions originated from that space, which I
Yes.
can relate to, and I think that's
Yeah.
what you're saying. So it's like I wrote all this material, poems, songs, and whatever for all these years, and they were rooted in this in the transmutation of the darkness, or the awareness of the darkness and everything that follows. But I haven't done anything other than maybe a few pieces in the last year and a half, a little over a year. And I'm like, man, I mean, I'm listening to music. I got my little room here. I'm like, man, I want to
Yeah.
make some music. I want to do something
Yeah.
different, do something new.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I just got to that point like 2 days ago, and I'm like pulling up all the old music instrumentals I have and pulling up my old words. I'm like, oh, this isn't working. No, this isn't working. No, this isn't working.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, now that you say that, I'm wondering if there's a new thing to tap into, right? A
Yeah.
new, you know, kind of
Yeah.
like your song. Your song that I played before this was, to me, that wasn't like that darkness or that sadness or that, you know what I mean, that we, so many artists know. It was actually about real time. This is what's happening, but it had that passion, that same kind of heart, that those expressions that come from that a dark night of the soul came from. I love that
Yeah.
song.
Oh, thank
We
you.
need to do something
Yeah.
with it. We need to put you
Yeah.
together with a big producer in LA or something.
See that I
Sending
had
out
a
an
plan
announcement
to
for that.
record, yeah. I had a plan to do that, to record and put
Yeah.
this album together following my experience.
Oh,
But yeah,
that would be cool.
the
I still
plan,
like to pick up the music thing. And
I
yeah,
just can't plan anything.
I know.
It just
I
doesn't
know,
feel
man. I
right.
mean,
As soon as I hold it, I feel attached to
you
the
can't.
story, see? And then I'm like, well, yeah. So I'm going around and around, just sort of being, right? And going, oh, I can attach to that. And then I'm, this is my dream. What do I want to do while I'm holding this space? While we're holding this grid.
Yeah.
Because we are all things and can be all. So what do I want to do? Well, we'll see. We'll see what
I
this
know.
looks
Like,
like.
we had, so we got here, we got to LA on 8/8, and we got here on 10/10 to this place. So what, 10 days ago, 11 days ago. Well, we were really busy, going from place to place and, dealing with a lot of other people's energies, dealing with energy period, you know, uh, walking this path in what, fearlessness. I don't know if it's fearlessness, but but in fear, but also in faith, I guess would be how I put it, which is a blessing to be doing it with somebody else and all. But we had this kind of in our head: when we get to the cabin, here's our two priorities, right? Here's, we haven't been able to do it because this is going on, that's going on, this is going on, that's going on. And we get over here and it's like you're talking about. It's like you wake up and the chalkboard's erased and you're going, okay, what's going on? But it's okay. We're
Yeah.
not like judging it. We're just like, okay, uh, it's all right. It's more than all right.
Yeah.
Those things will be there, whatever,
Yeah.
it's like weird.
The
Here we
doing
go
is
with the weird
going
again.
and the being is here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
we master
So
the being, I think that we can play with the doing, but it's the being first.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. So we one of the things we're doing is we are in, after 3 or 4 late nights, we're I think it's season 3, episode 4 of Game of Thrones. So we're like going to watch the 8 seasons of that. Oh my God, it's so weird how
Awesome.
you pick up things like with Outlander, you pick up I said to her last night, into this 3rd season, I'm like, man, I don't know if I like this series, man. It's just a bunch of all these people are assholes. They're all like, greedy and, lusting and, incestuous. And I'm like, she's like, well, you think about when it was made, think about the energy of the planet. And I'm like, ooh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's like, we're all the good people, man. We're all the empaths, dead, burned, da 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 da. But we're changing that now. So
Yeah. There
I'm
was a
looking forward to the
story.
next, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next popular series that captures that same energy that you're talking about, that your song um, captures, and that hopefully I'll be able to tap into here soon, so I can get my creativity rocks off. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's
Mhm.
do this.
If I,
Let's be this.
well, tell Eleanor, uh, give Eleanor a big hug for me and a big kiss. I'd love to
I
see
will.
her again.
Yeah.
And I love you and thank you very much for always showing up and being you. And I'll see you the next time. You take
Yeah.
care.
So much love. See you later.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Yvania. See you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.